All right. Yeah, no, I picked a bad night to make Indian food. It's in the crock pot. Now that'd be perfect. We'll do the podcast. I'll get down there and then I'll make rice and then we'll feed. I'm like, he's gonna have a meltdown before then. You know, I was like, you better have him order food. We'll eat that later. It might suck anyway. It's my first shot at Indian food I've never tried before, and it smells okay, but it required yogurt.
Just add curry.
4 hours, so I don't know.
Add curry.
Just add more curry. You'd be good.
I know, and I'm sprinkling curry, and Jen's like, I hate curry. I'm like, oh, shit,
curry.
I don't know what to do. I'd let him eat it, but there's a whole nother process to make something else and mix it.
Screw it. Just get some chipotle.
I might just throw it in a garbage can.
Yeah. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Culper's Canteen Cup. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. Want to give Carlton Zeus a big shout out. Thank you for the intro music. I still can't believe you're allowing us to use your music on here, but our 7 listeners definitely appreciate it. Hey, if you want to hear more Carlton Zeus, you can check him out on Apple Music or over at www.carltonzeus.com. So we have a special episode today for everybody. We have Tom and Jen Satterly. So if you run within the Army Special Operations circles, Tom and Jen Satterly need no introduction. You know who they are. You know what they're doing right now. For those of you who don't run in those circles, Tom and Jen Satterly are. They run the All Secure Foundation and Virago Foundation, and we'll let them talk about that and tell you what those are about. But just a quick background: Tom spent over 2 decades within Special Operations, specifically at 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta. Tom's career spanned everything from Mogadishu in 1993 to the Iraq War in the 2000s, and all the way up. And Tom, you retired. It was what, 2010?
Yeah,
right around
10. Yeah.
And so to 2010. So Tom's a guy. He's been there. He's done that. And Jen has been by his side, helping along, saving lives, and not only saving lives, but saving Tom's life. And I don't want to get too personal, but what they're doing now is they're truly doing the Lord's work. Reaching out to those folks who are struggling, whether it be post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and helping them through their foundations. So, without further ado, I want to throw it over to Luke, and we'll get into this, man. They've got a fantastic story to tell, and definitely everybody will be better for having heard it.
Wow, thanks.
I'm better for being here already.
And coupled with this, you guys go into as much of your background as you want or as little. I'm going by the outline here that Josh gave us. This is really well done outline, but it's not very. I'm lying. It's not good at all. So I can kind of say what I want right here. I'm usually the one that I'm usually the one that does the outlines, and we try to keep it real simple because we're all 3 blockheads. But what I want to get into is first of all is the 2 organizations, All Secure Foundation and Virago, and just if you could. First of all, I'm going to be like Roger. One of the things Roger does is he'll ask 40 questions and expect you to remember every single one of them. So I'm going to do something similar to that. So I'll ask you to kind of explain both organizations, take turns, however you want to do it. And one thing I'm particularly interested in is some of the challenges you faced when you first started setting up both of the 501c3s and the challenges you continue to face to this day. And it's very selfish of me to ask that because one of my resolutions over the next couple of years is to set up my own with a couple of friends of mine. And I want to know some of the pitfalls because I started looking into it. And I was like, yeah, no wonder more people don't do this because, yeah, it's not as easy as I thought it would be. So, tell us about All Secure and Virago.
Yeah, and it's easy setting up foundations. I mean, it's easy, and you make all kinds of money. So just Google it, and you're there in about 5 minutes. Yeah, our foundation,
Yes, that's how it went.
the All Secure right? The All Secure Foundation was basically formed after Jen kind of was thrust into the special operations world in film and photography, and also thrust into meeting up with me and seeing what a blockhead I was and all the issues that I had that came with it. Here's this charming guy on the surface, that's cool and a history she doesn't know anything about anyway. And then boom, there's this asshole standing in front of me, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And it's like, what happened? I love him so much, yet he's completely and utterly fucked up. He's gone. And she didn't realize that disparity between who I really was inside and who I was putting up front, and then she starts working in special operations community, and the guys open up to her because you're on target for, 5 days at a time, waiting for the hit to go down and things like that. Yeah. And so she spends 30 days at a time with these SEALs, Rangers, and SF cats who turn to her. Number one, 'cause she's a woman. 2, she's pretty. And then 3, we're there so long, they start to share their stories that they don't share with each other. We didn't share it with each other. I mean, we talked about other shit, And so now when a woman shows up that's constantly there, she's embedded, and they start sharing their stories of family and the struggles. And then guys didn't come back for the next training iteration. Hey, where's Joe? Nah, he was killed. And she couldn't deal with that. So after 2.5 years of doing that and co-founding a special operations training firm with me and some others, she said, I got to get out of this. This is not for me,
crazy.
Man. We're training them up to go to war. We're the last thing they see with all the TTPs and all the bad things that we've experienced in our careers. We're throwing it at these units. So hopefully they're prepared for it if they see it overseas. And to her, that's not training. To her, that's reality. This IED goes off and this guy falls down and he has a meltdown. She's like, this is just a fucking firecracker and some bottle rockets. What's up? No, that guy realizes what that really means to him and the buddies around him.
And I also would hear, there's no crying on contract. There's no crying.
There's no crying on RMT, that's for sure.
Stop it. And I'm like, I'm not.
But she started having dudes crying on RMTs. These pipe hitters were like crying and wanting to.
I was popular.
Reconnect with their spouses and their kids, and they didn't know how to, and we didn't know how to either. We were struggling so bad. I was tanking, and she kind of stepped back and realized, I don't want to do this. We're going to start a nonprofit. And I'm like, we're what? She's like, come on, you can do anything, right? You were in Delta. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work like that. It briefs well and it sounds good on the headlines, but that doesn't mean shit. I could shoot people, but we don't need that. I could CQB. We don't need that. I don't do office work very well, but I can yell at people. And she's like, well, that's all I need. So she got to work.
You yell at people. I'll do the paperwork.
She'll be the one that can tell you how to stand up a nonprofit, not me. I'm like, tell me what to do, man. Just please, just tell me what to do, and I'll do that exactly. And that's all. I was at that point in my life. So our struggles and everything that we learned, she wanted to put back to help others. And that's when the old write a book thing started, and I'm like, never, that'll never happen. That will never, 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 never happen.
Yeah. But frankly, I mean, really, it had gotten to the point when I would go on RMTs, I was also going to school. I was going to coaching school and health school and all these other things. I'm constant. Our house looks like the self-help section at Barnes and Noble. Nope. It truly does.
Yellow,
like
sticky notes, dry erase board, kitchen.
And they're actually by category too. I'm like that much of a nerd. Like I have the food shelf, I have the spiritual, the mind, and everything. So I've kind of been obsessive like my whole life in this category anyway. But what I noticed too was that like one of the SEAL teams that the last iteration I went on was a long one. It was 28 days. And it was the third time I had been with this team. And like Tom had said, there were a few guys that I had known from the first iteration that didn't come back. I'm a total empath. And I remember telling him, I'm like, I'm not cut out for this. Like guys keep not coming home, and it's not just names anymore. It's faces and people. And he's like, well, none of us are cut out for this.
I'm getting mad at her because I'm like, you don't know these people. What, you pick up the paper and read the obituaries and cry? I used to make fun of that. I'm not that guy. I don't know you. I know death. And so I didn't realize where I was. I didn't realize that I had no feelings about death. I had no empathy or compassion. And I'm like, what are you don't know that. I'm trying to convince her to be the same as me, and that kind of turned into her convincing me to be like her and caring about people and caring about situations and caring about things. I'm like, well, I got tricked on that one, didn't I? That was my defensive mechanism my entire life to keep me from breaking down and giving a shit, was to not care about anything and just do my job.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that that's where I was.
But in that time, I noticed that on this last iteration that the guys would come to me because they're like, hey, I heard like Tom's on all these supplements now and he's doing all the stuff. He lost 30 pounds. So people were noticing like the physical change in him, the emotional change. He wasn't having outbursts at work as much anymore. He wasn't such an asshole at work anymore. So then really, it was one of the commanders who was friends with him asked me on the side, like, hey, what's he doing? And I'm like, here's my number. Just call me after this iteration. Well, that number got passed around and I was on the phone like 11 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, hi, I got your number from one of the other team guys. Can you help me with my wife? Can you help me with my kids? Can you help me up? And so I'm like, we have to do this. This has to be our mission, because you guys could train them up to go over. And there's lots of guys who can train them up to go over and keep them safe. But nobody's keeping them safe on the backside. Like nobody's helping retrain. Nobody's helping reacclimate. And I shouldn't say no one. That's not fair. At the time, 7 years ago, it felt like no one. There's a lot more organizations that have come up. The Army, the Navy that we've been working with has been stepping up in big ways, really. But 8 years ago, that wasn't the case. And that's not what we were seeing. So the nonprofit was kind of formed to catch all of these people that were coming in. And it wasn't like, is there a problem? It's like, there's a really big problem and there needs to be more hands on deck, not less. And he's like, there's a ton of veteran nonprofits. I'm like, how many serve the family? Like truly we'll look at the spouse as an equal.
We can go to Disney. We could go scuba diving. Yeah. So I'm going down that list of veterans. Hey, veterans, come do this, come do that. And I'm like, I could go hunting. I could go duck hunting, deer hunting, whatever hunting. I go to Alaska because I'm a vet. I could go diving because I'm a vet. And it's all free. I could do all this cool shit. And it's like, great. And we saw friends of ours that go and get help and then get off heroin, crack, cocaine, and they blah, 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 blah. They cheat on their wives. And then they go home and they feel better and they're all ready to get started. Honey, man, sorry about the last 20, 25 years, but I'm better now. And they're like, fuck you. Fuck you.
A lot of that.
Yeah. Where's my shit, right? What I had to deal with your ass for 20 to 25 years or more. And I'm glad you're all better, But man, as soon as there's one lapse with that veteran, the spouse doesn't know what to do. Still, the spouse is upset. Still, the spouse has had to change their entire life and existence and how they raise kids and where they live for that veteran. So they're upset that they're left out. And we knew we had to include them because when you come home and somebody fails, there's somebody to catch them if the spouse knows what to do. That spouse can recognize those lapses in judgment, or he's starting to fall, or she's starting to push back behind. And then if we teach the veteran the same thing about their spouses and connect, it's like, hey, flirt, date, man. I mean, if you don't flirt with your wife, somebody will, and guess what'll happen? And ladies, you don't get a pass on this one, man. All right. If you don't flirt with your husband, somebody will, right? So it's all about the relationships. And if that relationship's strong, they can help each other beyond all the other issues that they're going to have anyway, that normal people have.
Yeah. And that's where Virago came into place too, which I just grabbed your wife, Josh, to help me out with that. But actually, I've brought on a couple of really cool wives and spouses from different places in the community. It's really meant to be a sounding board. It's meant to be a community of support for spouses who initially it was your spouse was, a combat, either veteran or active duty. Then it was a lot of law enforcement spouses started joining in. And now we really kind of keep it open to anyone who's a loved one of someone who has experienced PTS. We will have private groups for the special operation community where you need to be vetted to come in. Because again, we want to create protection measures. Both
and likeness,
for security and likeness.
Age, job. I mean, if you can't bond, you can't open up, right? So I mean, we've done that. We've done
The
them
mixed retreats
to where
don't work well.
guys show up that aren't quite like the other guys, and then those questions that come across the room really create that.
It's like the record scratch moment.
Who the fuck are you? You know, and why are you here? It's like, oh, okay, now nobody's going to talk, and there's some competition in the room. So we kind of keep it like, you know, we'll talk about it later. But Josh, you were with us one time. There was some differences in age groups, you know, on our one we did, and it was like, maybe it was behind the scenes, but there were some things I had to go deal with that. Maybe you were there one night when guys showed up and they're younger and they're different, you know, and they're like the older gentlemen in the group were like pulling these guys to the side, these young kids, like, hey, listen up. I get it, but you're not with your Ranger bros anymore, man. We're here so you can learn to hang out with your spouse. Where's your spouses and things. So there was some mentoring with that difference, but it had to be respectful. It had to be those younger guys respected the older guys versus totally different MOS, totally different mindset. And they're not going to share stories. So we've learned doing that to keep it like groups and ages.
We've talked a long time. Have we gone? Oh, the 501c3. I didn't answer the last.
We'll answer everything before we stop talking.
501c3. We were lucky enough to have an attorney who volunteered. Robert Hodges. He had a friend who, a veteran friend, very close friend, who committed suicide through PTS experience, and so he wanted to give back. So many people always like, how can we help? He came in for, how can I help? I'll help you set this thing up. Donate my time and services. So thank God we had a lawyer to do all of the lawyery, IRS filings, all of that stuff.
And that's something to do. You have social media, whether you hate people or like people on it, you know, whatever platform. But if it's a business, who gives a shit what they believe in, right? You want to sell something or you want to use something or use somebody's skills. So you can put out on social media. I mean, for anybody who wants to start a nonprofit and help. I mean, it's not in the undoable category. You can put out looking for people to donate time to help me set up a nonprofit. You can Google and set up a nonprofit in no time for $50 probably and get a number. You want a cage code, it's another $200, you know, so you can pay through the government kind of thing. But that's financial. But those legal things you need to do with the state, blah, blah, blah. IRS, if you can find a lawyer that can do that for you for free, you've just saved, you know, 1,000, 2,000, I don't know what I saved, but it was a lot of time and money that we saved. That, you know, we're putting our money into it. I'm out working a job that I don't want to do anymore, still training while she's at home doing this for free, and we're paying money to get this done and find people to help us do it right. You know, and I'm making money so we can live in the house and eat. And I know she's building a career that hopefully one day I'll be able to step into, which I was able to. And then we're bringing other people in and creating jobs is what we're doing and what she's done. But it's all doable with the help of other people who want to help veterans. People are like, how can I help? They mean it and they love it, but they don't know. You have to tell them. And the only way you can tell them is by knowing what they do, right? And I tell people, I don't know, how can you help? Are you a lawyer? Are you
accountant?
What are your skills? Tell me your skills, and I'll look and figure out what I can do to use those skills. And if not, sorry, just share the word. But all that can be done.
Yeah, I mean,
for free, you know.
Ish. When people are always like, "I'm going to start a nonprofit," I'm like, "Have money, have a lawyer," because you know, he had said that we did self-fund initially, so that money that I'm like, oh, we have this much set aside, that'll be enough. That was like after the first month, I'm like, oh shit. So we need a little more money to start this thing. But where there's a will, there's a way. We made it happen. And honestly, you know, I probably should have gone online sooner and asked for more help, because since then we've had so many different people from all walks of life offer help.
It's always that chicken or the egg scenario. Like, at what point does one give to the other? I'll give you money if you're set up and you know what you're doing. Well, we need money to set up and know what we're doing. We had $1 million, of course, we could hire people to do everything. We'll just manage that. I mean, we're getting to the point where we don't do it all. I mean, we've done it all. We've done it. I still drive to the post office and dump shirts. We package everything ourselves, and books and shirts. And, you know, I think I bought stamps.com. I haven't even figured out how to use yet. So I still go down there and buy stuff. So, you know, we're trying. And then we bring in people that can do business stuff, organize things. And we brought in other people that were, you know, going to help us and didn't. And we've moved on and
moving on.
changed people. It's a business. People think nonprofit. Ooh, what a breeze that is, man. People love you and give you money and you work. No, man, it's a business that you have to run like a business. The tax people are always hitting you up with the same paperwork, though it terrifies me. I find out, you don't have to pay, but here's what they scare you with. Here's what you would pay. Things like that. But you have to keep that paperwork going. You have to keep it up or it's all gone in a second. So that's the terrifying part. So we have to do that. We have to do the legwork. We're on the phone talking to people while we're doing the legwork, and oh, by the way, we travel and we run the retreats. We set them up. And I mean, honestly, it's her and I, and we brought in, we have a therapist, but we brought in another person that's
admin,
man. Oof. The first person you ever get's an admin person. That one who loves to send out emails and type shit.
3 years later.
That's the person you always get. We got Denise DeLellis now.
Short
who
3 years.
Used to work at work in admin and is married to a guy from work for years. And you can trust her. She's got that mentality from work that, get to work, man. I love it. Something her way and she takes off like a boss. I never have to worry about it again. That's who you want. It's hire slow, fire fast. It's a business. And
I imagine the finances, handling the finance portion, along with the taxes does your admin person do that as well?
No, we brought in finance day one.
Yeah,
so I should say lawyer, money, finance.
Yeah.
Because
I skipped a step.
We're not going to mess with that. Like I can be, I used to be, you've made me really tighter.
We are not going to jail.
But no, I'm like, if that's a penny, I don't know. Let's go through approval process. He's like, it's a pen. It's all right. And I'm like, I don't know. Everything goes through Jesse. So we have everything.
We're pretty strict in ourselves with the money because it's not ours. It's not our money. It's not for us.
We're stewards of it.
Yeah, we're really strict with it. It's easy, right? It's easy to get a bad name. It's easy for someone to see you driving a car and go, oh, right. So we're worried about optics and we're honestly and reasonably worried about optics because it's other people's money. Nobody knows where you got your money and if you have your own money and why aren't you spending your own money then? Everybody wants to judge you for what you're doing. So we're real careful about that. And we can now tell everybody that 100% of their donations go back to help people. We don't take a penny of anyone's money because we have somebody that pays us and all our admin to keep operating. So every other dime can go back to people. And that's we can say that now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
all separate.
And that's a big thing too, is finding people that understand that business model and understand what it takes to have a successful nonprofit. And so we were lucky enough to have a large company, but they're Missouri based. They want to remain anonymous. So, but they're awesome. I love them. They're Missouri boys. They're hunting, fishing, but they own a rather large company. And they're like, we'll cover the business side of it. You guys come on, you work, we've got it covered, go and do this work. It's important and we want to support it. So that just allows 100% of every dime goes right back into programs.
You're right. You're right. Awesome. It does sound easy. Sounds super easy.
You should have.
Yeah, man. I'll have. I'm thinking 2 week stops. 2 week stops. I'll be done with this, man.
So Josh used to be our finance guy for Culper's Canteen Cup, and then we gave him some money, and he decided to go out to Kansas to some wedding and got sloshed and spent our entire yearly allocation all boozed up, and then made a lady cry and came back with a shitty interview. So he no longer one. I keep telling Luke he is a part of a nonprofit because we make zero money. And, now we don't have a finance guy. So that's kind of where we're at. But and we've talked about this before, Luke, Josh, and I, on previous episodes, and not to blow too much smoke up your asses, but I do applaud your efforts and everything you've done because especially throughout the social media community, everybody's a lot of talk. So I live out here in Arizona and we've got a pretty big Arizona Veterans Forum and I'm a part of, and everybody's always talking, and it's the, hey, watch this, fucking video of me doing 22 push-ups a day. And, hey, here's my phone number and just hit me up, brother. And, you call and it goes to voicemail or, whatever. They're screening their calls, scam likely or whatever. So, especially, and it's painful because our own, we talk, it's just shy of virtue signaling and I get that not everybody has the resources. So I'm not bagging on folks that are out there trying to help, but we are the worst at taking care of ourselves. We sit there and we talk about it. We post our little video. I'm calling Luke out to do 12 push-ups because he can't do 22. He fails at 10. And he calls Josh out to do his 8. He does. And then the next thing you know, after like day 5 or 6, you run out of people to call. Right. And then it just kind of goes away and it's a different topic. And so we had actually discussed before, way shorter of where both of you are at, but it's like, hey, we actually got to do something proactive. I mean, we have to do something. So one, I applaud the effort because you just, you said it and you kind of retract a little bit that no one is retraining. You're right. Because I think when you statistically look at it, it's very few. There's a lot of people out there talking about it. There are a lot of organizations that are profiting from it. But like you mentioned, you can go out and shoot and you can hunt and you can fish, but where's the therapy part? And I don't know how both of you are. I'm assuming probably the same. But one of the reasons we started this podcast, one, Josh told us to start it, so we started it. But as we got into it, because at first we were just audio, and then we went to YouTube. But it became very therapeutic. It's like, wow, I get to sit here for 2 hours and shoot the shit. And so far, we've only had to dump one episode because of Josh, which is a recent one.
I'm seeing
it. So it is extremely therapeutic. I was going through your website. So for those that are interested out there, go to allsecurefoundation.org. And something I wanted to hit you up on was your 6-week mind and body reset. So one, I got to tell you, I was extremely disappointed because you have it bolded. This program is not a military boot camp. And so that's what I expected. I was like, oh man, we're going back to basic training. And then you read through this and it's like, oh, actually it's not this at all. It is a total reset. So can you talk a little bit about that as far as what it's entailed, what you can expect to get out of it?
I'm going to start with, she built this totally herself.
Oh, great.
Well, I sat and said, you're spending a lot of time on this. No one's going to do this.
He did. You could be an ass at home too, not just at work.
I wasn't doing there. I wasn't throwing things at her, but she didn't create all this stuff, but she put it together from places that are the best. And I was the guinea pig for a lot of it. Like, try this, it doesn't work. Okay, we'll take that out. But people have done this. One person has done it, and one person that did it.
One
former special forces guy,
successful.
I didn't really know. It was on all kinds of drugs, doing all this stuff, was out of the military, blah, 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 blah. And I found your program and I thought I'd do it. And, one of those, I'm not going to ask anybody. I didn't even know he was doing it. Completely off drugs, completely motivated, completely cleaned himself up because he followed it to a T.
Yeah.
Now it's a thorough program. And there's been people that have written in, hey, it's hard to follow, blah, blah. Yeah, it's hard to follow because it's a lot to do in a short time to help you. Right. It's like the nuclear launch codes got to be difficult. So it's not easy to do, man. Or everybody would do it. But if you follow
it's not a magic pill.
It's not a magic pill. You got to put in the work. And people who put in the work, it's worked. And I've done it and it worked. So it's a good program that had a lot of effort put into it from her that she won't tell you. So.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. But it really is somebody else's material. And I got permission for it. So it's okay. But Dr. Hyman, so when I went to health coaching school, one of the things that really triggered for me, and at that time I was still working alongside special operations, so I was also eating out of gas stations, sleeping 2 hours a day, and
the menu.
Yeah. The first RMT I went on, at the end of it, we had just started to become friends and texting and everything, and I was like, he was like, hey, we're all going to go and grab Chick-fil-A or something. You want to go? I'm like, my hair is in 5 different directions. I'm like, I've slept an hour and a half and they're already up and getting food. Like, the fuck is wrong with these guys? Like, can I sleep for 4 hours? And, but at the end of that, I'm like, no, I don't want to come with you. I'll see you later. And he came back and he came to the door and he's like, are you all right? I'm like, I think I have cancer or something. I don't know. Like, I'm really
sick. We've been on this RMT for 4 weeks. I've developed cancer.
Yeah, I didn't feel good. So I realized that for these guys and gals who are overseas and then train up and then go on these RMTs and they're living this lifestyle that's really, frankly, unhealthy. You need sleep to detox. You need sleep. That's when your body does all of its repair work. And so I saw a total breakdown in my health, after a couple of years. And I'm like, if this is happening to me after 2 years, after 25, Like, what does his body look like? So I went to health coaching school to better understand PTS, the biology of it, and then how to fix it. Like, I'm a fixer. So it's not like I just want the information. I'm like, tell me what to do. Let's get to work. So this program, I'm like, oh, did you know the cortisol levels or the serotonin comes from your gut and this, and this, and started to see how PTS was playing a part in nutrition. So Dr. Hyman's program, he does a reset. He does an elimination. Tom is actually going through Cleveland Clinic right now.
I get to detox for a year.
1 year. You think 6 weeks is bad?
Wow.
And then go to the hyperbaric chamber. So
Yeah, he get the toxic metals removed from his bone.
yeah, I'm down to 2 drinks of alcohol a night if I drink. So no more than 2 a night when I do choose to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would be tapered down to 0. No gluten, no. Okay, I can eat turkey and.
We're not selling this program.
No, I can eat chicken and beans. No, this is the Diamonds program.
Something totally different.
It's the Cleveland Clinic program.
Stop.
On ours, you can do ice cream and whatnot. So.
No, he doesn't even know it. Basically, the guy, you don't. You probably never read it, but it's okay.
Wait, let's take a 4-second pause so you can delete that and edit it out. And start over.
Let's just have a trade.
Sure thing.
Start over with
What?
how healthy I am. No.
Tom has followed everything exactly to the T. He's been a model follower. No, you have not, but he tries, and I'll give him that. So the 6-week mind and body, it's self-guided. You open it up, it tells you exactly what to do. It's going to walk you through. Here's what it is. Here's how you set up. Here's how you prep for it. Because it's not like people will get it and they're like, I'm so excited. I'm starting tomorrow. I'm like, you haven't read it then yet.
You got 2 weeks of work
you got
first.
2 weeks of work before you start tomorrow. The problem is people are always like, I'm starting tomorrow. And I'm like, no, let's start in 2 weeks. They're like, but I'm excited now. I'm like, I know, but you're not prepared. And if you're not prepared by buying all the right foods and everything you need by 3 days from now, you're already going to be off this program because you're not prepared for it. So it's going to prep you. It's going to get you back into that tactical mindset of a routine, a regiment. So many of the guys that we work with, they get out of the military and they fall out of routine really quick.
So you're relearning to prepare, to set a goal, right?
Follow through.
To set a plan to reach that goal and the timeline, and then prepare, and then start to execute and know that you're not going to hit go and stop in the next hour. You're going to hit go, and it's going to be 6 weeks after you prepped for the 2 weeks, shopping, getting ready. So you're learning, oh, I can't just take a pill again. I can't just fix what I spent 20 years screwing up. I need to do what I've been doing my entire career, identify a goal, figure out what I want to do to get that, set a path, plan, backward plan, and back, for my timing and start.
But we do that for
you. Got to put together that content.
Yeah, you have to. And I hear, but I don't know what to do. I'm like, oh, you don't have any skills in the civilian world, do you? Because civilians don't plan, they don't execute shit, right? No. I hear so many times guys we don't have the training or the skills, and I'm terrified. It's a civilian world. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like the military, only you don't have to wear a uniform. You get paid more money. You don't get shot. Maybe you don't get shot at, and you're home more, so deal with that. But it's guys think they don't have the skills to do what they want to do, and it's just the fear of something new, right?
And there is
by the way, it's
in
called something different, right? A con-op is whatever it's called in the civilian world, and a timeline is something else, but we all do the same things. We need to set a goal. We need to backward plan from that and figure out when we need to start, what we got to do before we start, and then it'll work out. And then if it was all your money, I think that's a lot of the problem is in the military, it's not your money. It's not your time. You're just there biding time until retirement. It's like it's your penance. It's like, I don't know, I'll be here and I'll do what I got to do until the day I retire. And man, it's awesome. Then you return, you're like, I don't know what to do anymore, right? Because you don't have the resources. You got to do it all yourself. So that's another part about running a nonprofit is you don't have all that help that you used to have.
Oh, he was so used to all his secretaries. I'm like, honey, there's no secretary here.
It's hard going back. So... It's hard going back when you're like, hey, get this done. And then you go back and lay down and watch TV and your wife's like, get what done, man? Get the fuck up and do it yourself. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It's accepting of the change and realizing you got to put in the effort and the work.
And there might be a thing or two people will pull from the program. the one guy from Lockheed, he's so funny. He's like 65. He's getting ready to retire. And he's like, there's a chapter calling write the shit down, write shit down. Like, so good to just write every day. It's a list or whatever else. And so he called and he was like, I followed your program. I did okay on the food. I've lost 12 pounds. And, I'm sleeping. I'm like, great. And he's like, and I'm writing shit down. And I'm like,
whisper shit.
I was like, wow. There's a difference between Air Force and Army that I'm starting to learn more and more every day. But it was just so cute because he was so proud of like, I've been doing it every night. Like for him, that piece is what helped him deal with what he had to deal with and see what he had to see and recognize his patterns by putting it down on paper. So there's different things. There's meditation, there's mind mapping. There's a lot of different things in there that maybe people will gravitate towards the food piece and that will help. Maybe some people will gravitate more towards the meditation or the journaling or some of the other kind of movement things that we talk about in it. But there's something for everybody for sure in it, military or not.
The thing with that and everything else in life, PTSD, whatever your issues or problem is. I mean, the thing with it, we're the lighthouse. Hey, look over here, something that'll help you. Here's some tools. We're not doing the work, right? We did the work for ourselves. I had to do the work for me. She spent so long trying, terrified. Is he going to kill himself? Is he going to do something stupid? Is he going to leave me? Is he, who knows? This guy's crazy. I want to fix you. And she was driving herself crazy. She could never fix me. She can't do the work. I have to do the work. I have to decide to do it. I have to call the person that I need to help me. I have to call them. I can't have her call them for me. I can't have them, Ray, reach out to me and tell me I need help. It doesn't work that way. I have to want it. And I get called all the time. Can you call so-and-so? He's in a bad place. I go, have him call me. Have him text me, email me, call me, IM me, DM me, whatever you want. But I cannot reach out to you. You have to want it. That's the only thing we ask. You have to ask and you're done. And that's the hardest part. Like that 10,000 pound phone, right? It's so hard to pick up. But the second I say hello, I hear people crying.
Mm-hmm.
The phone goes away and they feel good. They feel they've taken that fucking step of, I don't ever want to tell anybody, blah, 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 whatever it took. And then they finally called me and I answered, hello, and they're just bawling. And I just say, take your time, man, because it feels good to feel. And it feels good to start something that's been so in the way. And they just break down every time. And I love it. And then we get to work. It's over. All you have to do is dial my number, her number.
Hardest part.
And it's over, right? You still have to do the work, and it's a lot of work. But the hardest part's over.
Agreed.
Yeah. And that goes, that goes back to what Roger said. We, especially in this community, we are so good about taking care of each other. I will give you my last mag of ammo. I will give you my last drop of water. I will give you this. We are the absolute world's worst about taking care of ourselves. And, I can't take care of anybody else if I don't take care of myself. And that took a couple of decades to realize, for that to sink in. It's like, I can't take care of anybody else if I don't take care of myself first.
It's kind of done for you. You're at work. You have to maintain a certain physical standard. You're worried about other people too, so you want to do good. You have to do well at your job. So you're doing it already, right? And you're kind of taking care of yourself, but you're doing what you think is what you got to do, right? But you're right. If the plane goes down, what do they tell you to do with the oxygen mask, right? Who gets it first? Because you can't help others unless you're able to help them. But guys won't do it. Guys, we'll go around the world. We'll help people in other countries who love you for a second and then hate you a week later because their water's out, and you're still there. Yep. You're doing it for them. There's nothing you're getting out of it. You get paid the same at home, right? Unless you get in combat pay. But, it's the same for us, only it's more dangerous and we're away from our spouses and we're doing it for others and they hate you for it, but yet you're still there. And then somebody asks you to take care of yourself and you're like, I'm good. I'm good. But I'll help my brothers too. I'll help strangers. I'll help my brothers. I'll help anyone else. But I'm fine. I am perfectly fine.
Yep. Yeah. And, what's amazing is on top of all of this, that you guys are working through and doing, somehow you found the time to get a book a piece out. And that's that's definitely amazing. And so real quick on so Tom has a book out. The title of it is All Secure. In a quick backstory on really how Tom and I kind of met each other. So I was working at Tom's old organization. And so, Tom wrote his book and he submitted it to make sure that, there wasn't anything in there that we didn't want to put out to the world. And, we took a look at it and we had a few tweaks. And
it was terrifying, by the way.
I'm glad when
we're playing cool now, but it was like,
I gotta go to this fucking hotel, meet this dude. He's going to tell me his shit's all fucked up. He could be a dick. He could be cool. I have no idea because I've been there and I know what you could bump into. I was like, fuck it. Here I go. I was so pleased to meet you, Josh.
No, it was, I think it was pretty minor tweaks. But one of the things that really struck me with your book when I was reading through it, that initial look is there's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of books out there from, other operators. There's books out there from SEALs, a lot of SEALs, because SEALs really like to write books and make movies. But there's all of it was, no shit, there I was up to my armpits and, spit brass and hand grenade pins. And that was the entire book from start to finish. That was it. That was the book, right? But your book was completely different than any of those that are out there. It was, hey, here's a little, here's my background, here's Mogadishu, here's, a couple of stories to get, you set the hook. You got to set the hook for folks. Yeah. But really that was you setting up. That wasn't the story. The story was, the rest of the book. That was really the book. And it was night and day from anything, because you walk through the challenges that you had, throughout your career and then, post career. And that really struck me because, again, a lot of the operators and SEALs and Rangers and Green Berets, they write their books. They don't talk about that. And the fact that you were willing to put that out there and be vulnerable, there's not another book I know of out there written by anybody in the special operations community like that. And so that's what, to me, really sets your book apart from all the others. And it's not about how, it's not, hey, look how badass I am. It's, hey, look how I screwed everything up.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly did.
And, when I read it, I was glad, I was absolutely glad that, we got to meet and everything. And, something, and I kind of jumped to the retreat a little bit, talking about reaching out to folks and everything. Something you said really stuck with me is talking about, reach out to the strong ones first, or, hit up the strong ones first. Those are the people that need it the most. Cause you're right. We will ask everybody else how they're doing. What do you need? Do you need help? And people are like, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Shit's on fire in the background. The house is burning down. I'm fine. Yeah, exactly. It's, so, and then Jen, you have your book, it's live now on Amazon. So, Tom's book, talk a little about that. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Tom, you can talk about your book if you want to. Jen, talk about your book and kind of cover what's in them and kind of what made you write the book the books to start with. And, are we gonna see more books in the future?
Yes. She did. And
1 year it took me to get him to write that freaking book, because he's like,
I'm not a Navy SEAL.
I'm not a Navy SEAL all the time. Not a Navy SEAL.
I love the SEALs. They do some cool shit.
And I told him,
fuck with them, blah blah blah. So they don't come hit me up, or Josh and these guys.
We're gonna get
don't beat them up. But SEALs are great, but it's a good joke, right? It's a good joke.
Yes. It took me a year, but that was because of what I talked about earlier. When I'm on the phone 11 hours a day, and literally, I'm like, the stories are different, right? Like, the combat or the deployed, whatever it was, wherever the trauma seeped from, that story might look different from operator, soldier to sailor. That might look different, but at the end of the day, the symptoms were the same. So it was 11 hours a day of the same story, not same story, but the same feelings from that story over and over and over again. And I would tell the guys, I'm like, yeah, Tom went through this, Tom went through that. And they're like, really? Oh, I didn't. I'm like, if you could just get this book out there, then how many more guys and gals are going to feel like, oh, okay, well, I've been through that. It's okay. If he could get help, I can get help. Or for a spouse or a family member to help better understand. And we've heard that a ton of wives reading the book saying, I literally had no idea what my husband went through in his 20-year career until I read All Secure. And so I think that and I'll let you talk about it more, but he didn't want to write it. He was nervous as hell to go meet you.
Terrified
about it. But
there's this evil person I have to meet at a hotel on the highway. And you tell me yes or no. I don't like him already, but I'll see you in an hour. I don't know what's going to happen. But
that's the norm. That's okay.
Most people don't like me after they pick me. So
it's reverse. It was one of those, and Mike was there, right? Was Mike there?
Yeah.
Mike and I went, oh, okay, it's a familiar face. At least I can yell at somebody I know if I get mad. But I didn't. Yeah. I fully expected to be told no anyway, right? I fully expected a no. I fully expected to have to revamp the entire book. Just because I'd never written a book before, just because I just figured you can't write a book because you're from Delta. You just don't even write a book. And
don't even point at it. Don't even look at it. Think about it. Nothing.
I've never been a bragger. I've never been whatever. Anybody can do anything if they want to and they work hard at it, blah, blah, blah. Monkey can do anything. If he hard enough, he'll figure it out and he'll do it. You keep training him. So I'm not real impressed with the shit I did because I was trained to do it. I stumbled into a lot of things. I got lucky in a lot of things in my life and I just ended up there. Great. And everybody went, oh, but you, look, man, I'm telling you my story. My story is I don't think it's that great. I got lucky to join the military. I just did it. I just joined the military one day. I didn't think about it but other than an hour.
After John Cougar Mellencamp,
I stole somebody else's idea of being a special forces soldier from a fake. His father was stolen valor, and he never knew it until last year. I stole his dream. His dad's holding him as a baby wearing his Green Beret. My dad was a Green Beret in Vietnam. I went, fuck, that's cool. I want to be in Green Beret. And he went to be a Green Beret and didn't make it. And then I went to be a Green Beret and did.
They weren't friends for a while after that.
And then he went to the unit, didn't make it. And I went to the unit and made it. And we're real close friends. It was just one of those things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Totally different lifestyles and careers. And then find out his father was never a Green Beret. I'm like, well, shit. My stolen valor got me somewhere. I just kept going. And every time it was like, hey, here's a selection. I was terrified. I threw up the night before. I got SFAS, throwing up. And I get there and I'm in shape. I always overtrained, but I was always terrified I would fail. And so that just drove me, but it destroyed me too, man. Right. And so I totally forgot what I was talking about.
We were talking about your book.
So the book is just
the TBI part of the segment.
When you forget what the hell you're doing and what day it is. And and I just go with it now anyway. Fuck it, I forgot what I was talking about. But I wasn't gonna write a book. And I wasn't gonna brag, right? I mean, there's some cool stuff. To me, those stories are like, it happened so long ago, and it was just, the shit played out, and I'm lucky to be alive. To others, it's really cool. And when she finally broke it down to me that all these people have the same shit. And I was on the phone just like her. And I'm like, yeah, they all have the same shit. The stories are a little different, way different, but they all come back to the same feelings. And she said, this could save a lot of time if you just put a book out. It's like a how-to manual of what the fuck. And people will see that, oh, if you went through it, it's okay, because we heard that so much. And I'm not the guy that's like, oh, you're in Delta and you're an operator, and oh, you're the end-all be-all. And if you did it, then, oh, it's fucking must be okay for everybody. Never thought that. But if that gets a lot of people in, like, oh, if you can say it, I'll follow you and listen to you, and it's a good thing, then, hey, fuck it, right?
Yeah.
That's being a leader. Get out there on the dance floor first. Do the shit that nobody wants to do, even though it's embarrassing. Our dirty laundry's out there, man. Wait till you read Jen's book. I'm a piece of shit, right? My book's okay. Her book's like, yeah, Tom's a real piece of shit, and here's what he did. But
Everyone.
So many people learn from it. I mean, you get an idea if you read my book. But when you read hers, it's like, here's more details. Here's more, like, here's what we went through, and we're still together. And some people be like, you're fucking still together. Yeah, we are, because it takes work to be together, man. You can be dead in a relationship and go about your day. Wife takes the kids, you do your thing, you get back together, and every now and then you have sex maybe, and you eat dinner. And that's not like a fun life, man. I mean, God,
well, it wasn't for us.
We have like porn star relationship every night, and we take the kids out. You can have
Sorry, Dad's watching.
You can have a churched up. You can have a churched up life, a spiffed up existence, and you can have it all, kind of, if you work hard at it all. And it's kind of what you choose that you want. I want a great relationship with my wife. I finally have meant that, right? I love my wife. I'm deployed, 9 months a year. And I'm training the other 2. And then I got Christmas, and a couple of birthdays. But, you guys know the deal. You're not home. And so the choices that I've made in my life it wasn't family along the way, right? It wasn't family. It was my career. And when you get into those careers at those levels, right? When you get up into those levels and you're good at your job and people need you, I don't care if you're a CEO, I don't care what you do, you're professional sports. This over here suffers. And if writing a book could get people to understand that, hey, all the shit you do, somebody's paying for. It's probably your family. If you want to keep them, you better keep that in mind, right? And hopefully that'll help other people to think about keeping their family in mind. And so Jen's like, let's tell, for her book.
Yeah, and so mine isn't really memoir. It's more self-helpy, like my Barnes and Noble section of my house.
It's a field manual, man. It's laid it out.
Something, but
military people need it, like laid out. Lay it out. What do I do? And spouses, even the spouses become like us, man. Hey, and we talk the same way. We know how to communicate over years. So it's like, lay it out, tell me what to do. Okay, here's a story of how screwed up it was. Here's what we did. Here's what you should do. And it's boom, and it's on to the next. So that's the self-helpy part, but it's the self-helpy part that's easy to understand and not boring.
I hope not.
It's not. I read it like 5 or 6 times already. Every time I cried, every time I'm like, shit, I'm an asshole. And then thought, wow, I learned from it again, right?
Yeah.
How to not do those things again. I'd probably read it a couple more times just to keep going for me. And I'm not trying to sell a book. I'm like, I need to read it because, I'm not healed. I'm all better now. I'm going to screw up. I screwed up yesterday. I'll screw up tomorrow, probably, if not tonight. It's early.
Yeah.
Early in
Let's
the
not
You still have to
tonight.
complete cooking that Indian food. That could be a problem.
Yes.
So which book? So I've got both of them still in the mail. Mail takes forever to get here. Actually, the Arsenal of Hope, subtitled "Tom is an Asshole," is pre-ordered.
Yep.
So let's say if you're gonna, if I was gonna pick one of them to read first, would it read his first and then read the self-help on how to fix him?
These are almost. It's almost like these are like volume 1, volume 2, because honestly,
yeah, this is her a lot.
Yeah.
Her.
Yep.
Stories, linking up with her.
Honestly, this
most fucked up part of it. And then where we went from there.
One.
And this is the continuance of it, probably, of the link, the mesh, and then the continuance of what we did and the behind the scenes of how my book says, I got a lot better. I'm doing TMS now and I'm all good.
And that's
and
where
her book's like,
ends.
Here's all the bullshit we did. Trying to say we're all good. That 8-year overnight success story.
His one chapter became this, because we really did feel like after people started reading his book, they're like, oh my God, this helped me so much. Or, I mean, honestly, it did what we wanted it to do, which was to help people understand that they're not alone in it. There is an other side to trauma. You can get better from it. You can heal. He was rock bottom, and then, like he said, gets out the jackhammer, goes further.
I'll decide where the bottom is.
So honestly, this book will tell you, like, here's below rock bottom. Here's how I got below rock bottom, and then a little bit of how I got out of rock bottom, because the publisher cut out 40,000 words
Wow.
of his book because it was too long. So we were like, it didn't do all we wanted it to do, which is, okay, let's explain PTS. Let's explain secondary PTS that wives and kids get. Let's explain the impact of being deployed in the biology of it and all of those things. So I think
and go here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one thing to have knowledge. It's another thing. I think with his book was, okay, now I have the knowledge, or now I have understanding or awareness. Great. That's 80% of it. Then people were like, but what do I do now? Or where do I go now? Or how do I get help now? And I wanted this to do what his book did. Pick up Arsenal of Hope. I mean, we have bought boxes and boxes and boxes of All Secure and have just sent them. We've sent them to Africa. We've sent them over to Afghanistan. Or places,
They don't
I
eat
don't
them
know.
there. They're hungry in Africa, so we send them the books to feed them.
Well, it's actually for the people there.
Deployed guys.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, all around these books have gone around the world, and messages back from around the world are amazing. You know, small numbers. Hey, you're in Ireland. You're in Australia. You're in New Zealand. I'm like, and we do the same thing. I'm like, it's a human issue.
Yeah.
It's not an American issue. It's a humanity issue for everyone.
Yeah. I was just talking to a guy in Italy today. He said the same thing. He said in Italy, we don't have like PTS. We don't talk about that with our military at all, like none. And so he's like, I follow American military because you guys do a much better job of like talking about it. And so I'm sending him a bunch of stuff over for him and his guys. And
we're in Russia.
We're in Russia.
We're colluding with
It's
them
a
now.
global initiative.
You know,
That's one of the things that
cut or what?
4 seconds.
well, that's staying in. We're
I got several emails and you know from Russia. Can you ship to Russia? I saw a party book.
That's
I read.
a worldly issue.
I want a signed book. I'm like, yeah. You just want my address?
Yeah.
I'm waiting on you. But they're around. I mean, it's a humanity issue.
Yeah.
It's not just for us and our soldiers. It's for everybody. That I mean, yeah, we all do what we're taught, right?
Yeah.
The zealots, the crazies. They were born. They're taught to kill Americans. That's what it's their fun thing to do, and we're raised to watch out for those fuckers. So, you know, we all go through the same shit along the way, though.
Yeah.
No matter who our bad guy is.
And that's one thing that's interesting to me in particular, and the three of us have talked about it a lot, is I'm of the belief that fundamentally people don't change. I think that fundamentally we're the same as people were 2,000 years ago. Our brains really haven't evolved that much. We may be more aware. There may be new information. But, you know, I'd go back as recent as World War II. When those vets came back, a lot of them were fucked up. You know, and so it's an issue, you know, now we're more aware of it. And I think it's always a good thing because it not only does it benefit, you know, people's own well-being, but my philosophy, you know, lifelong soldier is it improves your fighting force. And in the end, it's going to save money, you know, and it makes a better war fighter overall. And well, you know, we could go off on that tangent, but what I'm supposed to talk about, according to Josh, is we
I know who's running
that thought that, you know, things don't change over the years, and you know Roman centurions and you know the Golden Horde and all that. You know, there were soldiers throughout the years, and a lot of those stories are lost along the way. And you know, you always ask your granddad, if your granddad was in World War II, you know, hey, tell me about World War II, and either they don't want to talk about it, or they did. My granddad did like to talk about it. I loved hearing the stories. He was just an anti-aircraft guy, you know, and what I saw was a pattern of this longest conflict that we've been in our nation's history. You know, literally millions of soldiers have gone over there and come back, but all we're seeing in popular culture is American sniper, lone survivor, you know, tip of the spear. And that's great, man. And those guys, you know, you guys did great work. But there's also, you know, an admin clerk out there who deployed to Afghanistan twice, Iraq twice, and maybe the Horn of Africa, who might have seen some really interesting stuff. And I think it's our responsibility to pass that on to future generation in hopes that maybe, and not just the future generations, but the current, you know, culture, our current society, that, hey, there's a lot of soldiers out there that did a lot of stuff and have a lot of stories, and maybe people can identify I won't say problems, but some of the issues that a lot of people do have. So Josh and I, Roger politely backed out, but we're not going to let him do it on the next one. But we put together a book of short stories, and we kind of dedicated it to a friend of ours who succumbed to a lot of the demons that he had. And we wish we would have known then. We wish the All Secure, what you guys put together, we wish we would have known that back then and recognized it back then like we do now. It's like, well, what can we do? What can we do to honor his memory? So we put that together, and we were like, well, we got to give this money to, a nonprofit. And I asked Josh, which one should we choose? And this is the one. And I'll tell you, man, no, I don't have a single regret. I was like, I don't know them, but if Josh says it's good, it's good. And the more I looked into it, I was like, this is
the hell are they?
This is right on spot. And this is going to be an ongoing project. And someday, since you are now a internationally renowned author, someday down the road, volume 4 or 5, we might hit you up to contribute a couple stories.
So
but the goal is to just we're going to start in our circle and work our way out. Anybody who wants to contribute something that happened to them, happy, sad, weird, funny, touched your heart, whatever. We want to get those stories out there to the public and continue feeding organizations like yours in our buddy Jerry Cole's memory. So volume 2, we're hoping to put out July 4th. We really appreciate you guys plugging that. We got a lot of sales out of that. And I'm really glad that we could fund y'all's operating budget for a whole 15 minutes. So next time we'll search, we'll search for 30 minutes. We'll search for 30 minutes of funding All Secure next time. But yeah, we want to give you guys a shout out and really thank you face to face. We talked to our audience about this, and I know I've had a few people hit me up saying, when are they coming on? When are they coming on? I want to hear more about this. So we really appreciate it. So Josh, I checked that box. So now it's Roger's turn. But once again, guys,
It's a great book.
It's a great book.
I mean,
my dad liked your book better than his.
Man, seriously, this is what you need to be doing, Tom. People want to hear your stories, and I'm
kidding.
like, God damn it, you guys. But it was.
This book's really good.
Nobody wants to hear about that bullshit PTSD shit. He's a old Air Force cat, but
yeah, he is.
The book was fucking. I mean, that's the kind of book I want to do. But I have a bad memory, so I can't do that book. I learned more, but I remembered more writing my book from people. When my co-author went and asked other people's stories, interviewed people, like, well, that's a completely different story. And asked my sister things about growing up that I had a story my whole life that happened. My sister's version is way off. I'm like, well, way off. I'm way off. I assume it's me. I'm like, damn, I always thought that this or that. And so your stories are more important than people consider, because going to combat, one combat operation takes six soldiers, whatever, guns blazing. And they could be 5 feet apart. You're going to get 6 completely different stories.
Yep.
6 completely different stories. And that is so important, to hear every story, to understand fully what went on, and realize that everybody had a part in it, other than the hero over here that shot somebody that nobody gives a shit about, and it doesn't really matter. It's that complete story matters, and everybody has a part in it. And that's what's so important about that book. And
Yeah, it's a great book.
And it was hilarious. And I wish I had a memory and could remember half the shit I did. That'd be a funny, great thing. But man, I tell you what, that's
now our next book is our survival guide.
That's how people. That's how people heal.
Continuation.
Yeah, and to your other question, yes, we are going to write a book together. And whatever she says to do, I'll do that.
That's a good plan.
I'll write those words.
Tom, you'll be responsible for drawing the pictures, and she can just put the words on the page there. So
No,
I want to do that.
like, here's some crayons,
It's,
color some pictures, and we'll write around it.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in before Roger takes off. So on that book, going back to I think it was Luke said it earlier. We wanted to make it lighthearted. We wanted to make it a book that somebody could pick up for 15 minutes, read a story, and put it down. Not something somebody to sit down. Okay, I got to dedicate hours to this, because we're just not that interesting, and people just aren't going to dedicate hours to us. And so But one thing I found, like the podcast, just sitting down, just talking, was writing some of those stories, the not so funny ones, it was therapeutic. It really, really was. And there was some, one of the great things, I'll make it about me for about 60 seconds. One of the great things that I found about retirement, especially on the terminal leave portion, and kind of, when we came to the retreat, was I had a lot of time on my hands, right? I had a lot of time to sit and think and do nothing. And the worst thing about that time was that I had a lot of time on my hands to sit and think and do nothing. And so, a lot of those memories that it just kind of compartmentalized and pushed to the side. It's like, I don't have to deal with this right now because I'm on to my next, I'm on to my next. I don't have time to, really digest this. And, how do I feel about this? I don't know how I feel. I don't have to worry about that because I've got something else to do. And then, as I was on terminal leave, it's like, I don't have anything to do. So all that stuff came bubbling up to the surface, and that shit was not easy. The Army prepares you for transition. It'll teach you how to, they even have a class on how to wear a suit. Like, that's how ridiculous it is. But there is no class on the mental part of transition. There is nothing there to say, hey, this is what you're going to experience, and this is how you're going to deal with this. And I'll say from the retreat, one of the special things that you guys were able to do in a matter of hours after getting there was taking a group of people who didn't know each other. Some folks knew each other and some folks didn't. But making everybody comfortable to be able to open up and share their stories, that they normally like. I just met somebody 30 minutes on the street. I'm not telling them shit about me. And then 30, 45 minutes after an hour of being there, it's like, yeah, here's where I'm dumb and here's where I'm really struggling and I don't know what to do. And that's not easy for a lot of folks to do that. And you guys created an environment on that retreat that was, people were able to do that. Strangers were able to do that, and that's not something that you can replicate by taking people out to Texas and shooting hogs. You just like this. It's not something you can do. You guys did that along with Stacy and everybody else, and that was truly amazing. And so that was very special. But yeah, the book again. It was therapeutic. And so anybody out there listening, even if you don't write a book, even if they don't go anywhere besides your computer or, your desk or wherever, sit down and write, type it out, write it out. It's just that the act alone in itself was therapeutic for me for sure. So I'll shut up. Roger. He's giving me the disappointed dad look. Like,
no, it's all good. I was just thinking my contribution to your next book, I'll just do transcripts of our episodes and we'll just cut and paste that stuff right in there. So we'll be able to pick and choose. So throughout the episode, we talked a lot, or I guess we touched a little bit on PTS and a little bit on TBI. And, we've had this discussion in the past where I think we've come a long way and we're going to go a lot farther because generally speaking, when you look at the history of our country and conflict, it just hasn't been that long. You've had several years here and there. Folks did a rotation. Vietnam, you saw folks that, might do a third rotation, this and that. And so we, as every conflict that we went through, no matter how long or how short it was, we just changed the terms, and Nam used the 1,000-yard stare. And I think our generation, it was battle fatigue, right? Oh, you just need to take a knee and drink water for 30 minutes and then you're all good and rocking and rolling. And so then we come into this 2-decade conflict. And so now you're starting to see, like you're talking about, you've got 6 different people in a firefight, 6 different perspectives. Well, now you're starting to see the holistic view of, hey, this is what happens to you. This is the impact. So I think we're going to go, even farther with this. But can both of you just talk briefly about, some of the signs and symptoms of PTS, if you are able to identify it, some of the tools out there? Because I think one of you mentioned earlier, it's a lot like, hey, okay, now you find something, you see something. Now what? And, you can get on Gurgle and you can Gurgle a million different things. And I tell you, a lot of the information is kind of shitty. I mean, they don't really tell you. It's like, hey, yeah, you should call the VA 1-800 crisis hotline. So I live in Phoenix and we're the ones that people are dying in the parking lots waiting to get in. So can you talk a little bit about signs, symptoms, and then, some of the tools that are available for you?
Yeah, I know Jen will run them down, but I want to bring up the fact that everything she runs down, the signs and the symptoms that she runs down, are so universal, right? They're so equal between people, right? They're so similar. The fact that we talk about, I've had people, hey, how come we have problems now? The greatest generation didn't have problems. They came back and sucked it up. And like, no, they didn't. They came back and they didn't say shit. They didn't have anything to fix it. They didn't know what it was. So they didn't say shit. They felt weak. Vietnam, the same thing. They came back, you know, and public, you know, they were put down and spit on, blah, blah, blah. You always hear the worst of every story. So, you know, I get it. The feeling is there. And I've met everyone in between, from people who just got out, people who are just going into the military, to spoke to a gentleman that fought in the Battle of the Bulge, a speaking engagement, and he was 90 something. I'm pretty 98. When I got done speaking, he was at a big table at this racket club with his, you know, his family, their family, their great grandkids. They were all there, and we started crying at the table. He started bawling. I was crying with him. His kid's like, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" He's like, "I'm going tomorrow to get some help. I've been hiding this all along." And then another guy from Vietnam pulled me to his table with his family. The same story. So I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you wait. The day you choose to get help for yourself, that's how long you'll have waited and suffered, and then it'll start getting better. If you have an issue, right? These guys are hiding it. It's not that this just started. It's been around since Cain killed Abel. Yeah. Probably fucked with Cain, right? Now he's all fucked up for a while. You know, you can't do it. It's not natural. You have the moral injury that creeps up on you after being taught. I would enter rooms. I would look at hands. If there was something in that hand, I killed that body. I don't know if you're 14, 13, a girl, an old woman. I didn't care what color you were. If there's something in your hand that could harm anybody, I killed you. And then I looked at your face and dealt with it. So we removed thought, we removed emotion, and we replaced it with muscle memory. And then you have to deal with that. That picture's in your head, and that's going to come back to you down the road. I don't care who you are. I don't care. Don't lie to me. All right. I know. You'll have to deal with it because it's not normal. It's not normal. And it wasn't the greatest generation was better than us. They didn't talk about it. Those guys died. They gave it a heart attack, alcohol, whatever. They named it something else. They didn't say PTSD. You know, like you said, shell shock and whatever. Battle fatigue. Right. And blah, blah. It's all the same. It fucks you up, taking a life. And it doesn't have to take years and years and years, right? It could be one event. Complex are many. But these symptoms have been going on for years and years and years.
Yeah, and I think Colonel Ferris, when we spoke our last time at Fort Bragg, he brought up a really great point too. We were talking about the different generations of warfighters, and he said, well, also think about it. He said, we're career warfighters. Like, we are career soldiers. You know, we have been in for 20, 25 years and he said, I'm not taking anything away from the greatest generation, you know, but a lot of those men would go over and fight for, 18 months. They come home, they're done. They're done. That's it. They had an 18-month commitment. They saw really bad things, and of course had trauma from it, but it was a really bad 18 months. Tom's career of 25 years is going to look different than an experience, than that kind of muscle memory. We always talk about it takes 10,000 repetitions to make you. Well, it takes that kind of repetition to build muscle memory too. So I would say looking for the signs and symptoms and some things that Tom talks about, you have to get to know the person. I think there's a truth to that to some degree, because you have to notice a shift or a change in the person. You'll notice a behavioral change or certain things that start to shift. And sometimes, like with Tom, the day that he nearly committed suicide, he was with his SF brothers. I mean, he was with people he served with, people he loved, friends. And, here I only knew him 2 months at the time, but I wasn't in the same soup he was in. All those guys, they were in the same space. They couldn't really see. But for me, being a total outsider, which is why we always advocate for spouses, like, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice the nuances. You're going to notice the behavior shifts that they're hiding from their brothers or sisters. You're going to notice those things. And for him, even in that short time, he was like, I'm going to stay in the car and make a phone call. Everybody else was going into the bar and the hotel. And I'm like, why? He's got his own hotel room. He's got privacy. Why is he making a phone call? That doesn't make sense to me. And he always walks us in he always helps me with my camera gear. So what, you know, Teddy's helping me now instead of Tom. Like, this behavior's different. There's a shift. You know, something's not the same about him. And I didn't think like, oh, he's going to kill himself in the car. I never would have left the car, obviously. But I noticed something was different. I noticed Tom was different that day, and that his behavior had shifted. So for so many people, it's the nuances build. So what I hear from a lot of spouses is he doesn't come out of his room anymore, right? Like he isolates constantly. So I don't know what's happening. He got back from a deployment. Usually it takes, you know, a couple weeks before he settles back in, but now he's not settling back in. And so now I don't know, or now he's avoiding the kids. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't want to go on date night anymore. So really that behavior of withdrawing and getting really removing yourself from other people, which then gets replaced with substance abuse a lot of the time.
And what I'm experiencing while doing this is nobody wants me around. Shameful. I'll just fuck it up. I'm an angry person, so it's best just to remain in the shadows and drink by myself, you know? Be funny when I can, but typically I fuck it up, so don't do it, you know? Just people don't want to hear from me. And so I'm telling myself this story. She's seeing the outside of what story I'm telling myself. I don't need to be here. Nobody wants me here. I'm in the way. I'm talking myself into, I'm a burden. Man, what do warriors do, right? They either remove or fix problems. And if I couldn't fix myself, I was going to remove it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the thing I wish about PTS, that it just was like, here's your checklist. And this is exactly how you can identify when somebody's truly in crisis, or they kind of need help, or they're okay. Because it's not like cancer. I mean, you get cancer. Okay, here's the path to treatment. This is where it is. This is how we're going to fix it. This is how we're going to attack it. With Tom, you know, it was people are like, oh gosh, he started treatment. He got better. He started treatment in 5 years. He got better. So we're on year 8.
Success.
You know, and people don't think of it as the long game, and it is the long game. It is trying a lot of different things. It's failing. It's getting back up and trying something else. It's having good days, good months, bad weeks, good weeks, and understanding it's the ebb and flow of life, for one. I mean, I try to tell guys too, I'm like, I work with accountants and CEOs that, you know, are salespeople that were gone 9 months a year. And when they come back and they, you know, they've had reckless behavior too. They're drinking, affairs, things like that, destructive of family, high stress environments, high profile environments. And they're like, my life's totally screwed up. Right. And how do you work your way back from that? And so PTS is the same thing. Like, where do you start? I can't tell where anybody should start in that process of healing. Only here's a whole bunch of ways to heal. Find the one that might look most interesting or feel like a good fit for you. I started him on transcendental meditation. I'm like, okay, we're doing TM. I actually learned about it from a woman that worked with the police force. She said the academy's paying for it. It's working really well with our officers. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's what we're going to do. And it's going to fix Tom. And we did it. And he's like, this is stupid. You know, like, this isn't working for me. And
that was the first thing I tried.
First thing.
I wasn't, you don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute, right? So that was the first thing that I tried. And it was way too foo-foo-y for me at the time. Mm-hmm. Right. Doing it now, if I did it now, it would have taken better. Right. Yeah. And then I'm never fucking getting help to meditation. Yeah. Right. That was a big jump.
It was a big jump.
You know, how about I'm never getting fucking help to, you know, I'll talk to somebody for a minute, you know, versus some guy going, okay, close your eyes, use your secret words, say this time. You know, it worked, but
you didn't give up.
I didn't give up. I wanted it to work, so I kept trying. But normally, you know, in this job, you need to grab people right away. It's a sales job. I need to get you right now, make you feel better, or you're going to go away from me, and I can't get a hold of you anymore. I don't know what you'll do, man. So I need to get you in right now, make you feel a little better, so you'll keep at it. Versus, it didn't work. Fuck it, I'm going to go kill myself. So you know,
it's a process, and honestly,
you're looking for the same risky behavior. I mean, guys are cheating on their spouses and you're watching them. I mean, it's probably a good idea to, hey, man, you're going to fuck up your life. You're going to get caught. We always do. you're going to be financially just ruined, your family, your kids. So making better decisions. Oh, hey, by the way, I'd pull you out of the street and save your life, but I'm watching you drink yourself to death at a bar and get in your car and drive. So I'm not saving you now. Why would I save you then on the battlefield? So let's do it on both places. Hey, don't drink. It's being mature and responsible to your buddies, even though they might not like to hear it. But that's being a leader, is setting the right example and making others follow the right example, even though all of them are doing the wrong thing. Back in the day, I've just followed the wrong example because that's what we did. We partied, we had a good time. And then finally one day I figured it out. Oh, I'm the leader. If I party, they'll party 10 times as fucking hard. So I can't be seen partying. That was my fix. I can't be seen doing this, right? Not don't do this. That's another step of maturity, is don't actually do it. Then I'm helping myself and my men versus hiding from my men and not helping me. I'm helping only them. But, the drinking, the womanizing, the stuff that we think is part of the culture, the screaming at the kids for the dirty dishes, the freaking out when it really doesn't warrant freaking out.
It's called perfection-driven aggression.
Perfection-driven aggression. Read Winnie the Pooh. All those were written about, PTSD. That's how he explained PTSD to his son, from which war? Freaking
World War II. Well, he served in 1 and 2.
So he wrote Winnie the Pooh, and all those characters are PTSD symptoms. Like you got Tigger, who's fucking he's all over the place, right? You got Eeyore, depression. So all the symptoms and signs of PTSD are written in those characters to describe it to his child about it.
Christopher Robin. Yeah.
So it's all there of just that behavior that's out of the norm. I mean, our spouses
and it's biological.
Our friends know. Some of our friends don't want to tell us because we're their drinking buddies. We've heard that. And now drinking buddy's dead, right? So
and
that
it's
other
not,
person.
I want to make a statement there too about alcohol, because then people think like we're like these people that never do anything and we sit.
Don't drink and don't do drugs.
And don't do anything. But we, we drink responsibly. We do things responsibly. We didn't before. We were like 2 trains going 1,000,000 miles an hour. And when we met, we just crashed and
loved it.
My PTS and his PTS hit it off. Awesome. But it just wasn't good for the whole rest of our life and what we were doing with our lives.
And we'll say, like we say with everything, have a plan.
Yeah.
Have any of you planned? I mean, Josh, you've got a leg up on this. Do you have a plan? Do you sit down with your spouse and say, when we fight, here's how we'll fight. Here's what we won't fucking ever do. You won't ever call me my mother. You won't ever say I look like my brother. You won't ever do those things that will inflame me, that nuclear option that we all have on each other, that we know that we use on our spouses, and I probably used it last night. Oh, yeah? Well, you suck at running the foundation or something. What the fuck? You know what sets them off. So we make rules before we fight when we're in a cool space. Let's not do that. Let's not say this. Let's not say we're going to kill ourselves. Let's not say let's get a divorce. Let's not throw those things that I as a guy would throw out because I didn't feel good enough. Oh, yeah? Well, you don't want to be with me anyway. Let's just divorce, right? Because I feel shamed, so I want to get away from this and make it better. And my idea of making it better is either suicide or divorce or me leaving because I'm a fuck up, so I'm going to remove myself from this, or blaming her for everything. So we make rules on how to fight, make rules on how much to drink before we drink. We hold each other accountable. Making rules and plan. How about plans?
Plan for life.
Rules sound so restrictive. Let's make plans. Try to execute those plans. And you'll fuck it up for a while. And sooner or later, you'll get it better and you'll get right and you'll start doing well. And the muscle memory will be from partying and making bad decisions to having a good time and still living your life and making good decisions, and you're still having just as much fun. Yeah. So it's all about awareness and planning for everything.
And understanding it's biological. And there's many books. We have them on our website for references. And I would say arming yourself with knowledge is so powerful in this world of PTS because my lack of understanding created more problems. As soon as I started understanding the biology, I started understanding his triggers, his responses. I had complex PTS and it was untreated from childhood. So I was bringing my stuff into the relationship I didn't even know I was doing. So, it takes time to tackle it, but we're both to the other side of it. We both can say and we literally feel the other side of it. So
put in the effort. We were speaking at Fort Bragg, last week, 2 weeks, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. 600 guys in the room, maybe, I don't know, students, cadre, SF students, full. When we spoke for 3 days to all the leadership, blah, 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 blah. I got down and I was standing on the stage and I noticed a bunch of Army documents about PTS and helping your buddy out at a bar. And if he's having struggles, here's a 2-page flyer on both sides. Here's a fold out pamphlet with 4 pages. And here's a baseball card or a playing card with, if your buddy's drunk at a bar, turn him into his office. Do this, do that, do that.
Walk him to command.
And I'm holding up. I go, has anybody seen these forms? The Army's, 600 dudes in a room. I go, look at this. I can barely read one. I'm kind of making fun of it to see if I can lead them down a path. Look at this pamphlet. Anybody seen this? They're like, no. And I'm like, look at this. Who's going to carry this with you in a bar? Oh, take your buddy. Don't let him drive. Yeah. And look at this thing. You can't even read it. Anybody read these? And I'm like, no. And I go, why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? So the numbers that we throw out, help me with these. These are general numbers because she's freaked out about being perfect on numbers. Someone's going to call us out.
I'm a researcher, so I'm like,
since 9/11 to 2017 or 19, we're talking 65,000 and 5,000. 2 different numbers. What are those numbers? Combat deaths? Don't know. Yes, combat deaths and suicides. Oh, 5,000 suicide. You fucking wish. 65,000 suicides in the same amount of time, 5,000 combat deaths. Who's winning? Who's the greatest threat to the U.S. service member? It's us and our inability to deal with our emotions. Yet the information's out here, you fuckers. It's all written down, but you're too cool to read it. The military pays for it, pumps it out, pays doctors to print it out, and they're trying. And though it's not in the proper form to get you to do it, and I get they're trying, but you have to try too. You have to pick it up and read it. They're all like laughing. No, it's bullshit. Yeah. Why? Because it's all fucking the same shit I'm saying is written down here. Mm-hmm. I'm just not delivering it to you in the easiest manner
possible. Knowing your enemy. Like if you guys go overseas and it's like you're preparing and you study everything and you study the language, the culture and everything so that you have a better understanding. If you know that suicide is going to be your greatest enemy and the greatest killer of American soldiers, why wouldn't you study that enemy? It's kind of the same mindset. It's different because it's never been seen that way, but
so make it your job. Make it your job then. If that's what it takes you to do to get you to read the information. Oh, I'm just doing my job, man. Whatever it is that gets you to do what you need to do to make the right decision and help somebody or do the right thing, do that. It's always there. You can't be handed everything, right? We're hoping that we go around and talk enough. It makes it easy enough that people hear it enough and they'll at least do it a little bit. But when I saw those pamphlets, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's all here. It's not delivered to you in an exciting manner, so you choose not to look at it. But your buddies are dying at 28 a day right now.
Almost every hand went up in the room for somebody. We asked the class. So we were E9s and above one day, and then cadre the next day, and then students the third day. And E9s and above, do you know anyone personally closely related to you that's committed suicide? Every single hand went up in the room. Cadre, every single hand went up in the room. Students, probably 80%. And I told Tom, I said, can you imagine going to any civilian job and seeing leadership with every single person raising their hand and then all the instructors and then all the, the new recruits coming in that 80 to 100% are raising their hands that someone close to them has committed suicide. There's a big problem here. Like this isn't happening elsewhere. It's at least double than in any other population in the United States, suicide. So it's not fun or sexy to talk about, like we joke about, like, how do we make this content?
I know, right?
Where somebody
how do we get
wants
people to hear it? How do we make it funny like Matt Bass's Black Rifle? Let's be funny. Hey, don't shoot yourself, guys. It's not a joke, so it's hard to get the interest to hear what you need to hear,
It's not cool guy stuff, but it's the life-saving stuff.
And you got, you look at a lot, again, you come back to, especially, the soft community, and it's not one of those things that people want to talk about. People don't, they're not taught to be vulnerable. Like Roger said, oh, you're feeling sorry for yourself, rub some dirt on it, take a knee, drink water and face out and, deal with it. And so we definitely have to work on changing the culture of that, for sure. it's going to hit you up and ask you kind of, what you got for 2021, plans for All Secure Virago. I know last year, I know you guys obviously everybody got hit hard by COVID. A lot of things got canceled. You guys had to do a lot of things virtually. And I know that was tough. And, did you guys see an increase in folks reaching out, while they were isolated with quarantine or anything? Did you see kind of like a spike in that, or how did that go for y'all?
We've
It's a strange year.
On paper, we look like we're doing a lot more this year. We doubled down. I mean, we tripled down.
Yeah.
We've helped
Busy
more
year.
people this year for less money, over and over and over and over and over via, phone calls and Zooms and whatnot, doing large Zooms and doing active duty military units. So you get 600 at a time instead of, 10 couples. So, and it costs less.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper, it looks like, wow, All Secure is kicking ass, man. You guys grew this year, and we did, but it's not what we want to do. We want that up close couples
Personal,
work, the personal work, the eye-to-eye stuff. And 2021, we're going back to that so far. I mean, we canceled 8 last year. So far, we've got 4 of those rescheduled right now, plus a lot of extras that we didn't plan on that have been inserted for 2021.
Yeah, we had a weird year because summer was really quiet. And I'm like, wait, COVID's happening. Like when March happened, it was like everybody was watching the news and, oh my God, we're all going to die. And so there was a spike, obviously. Anytime you're going to add chaos to any situation, PTS is like, nope, I don't want to play with this. So yeah, we were getting a lot more. And then spouses were having increased anxiety. So like both couples are freaking out. And so we had like March, April, May, super busy. Yeah. And then June hit and we're like,
what's happening?
Where is everybody? Like June, July, it was quiet. Like we're calling people like, do you need help?
It's the great transition.
What the heck is going on? And so, yeah, the reset.
There was a great reset in June.
Like, I don't know what happened, but quiet. And then really holidays are always a busy time. It's just spiky anyways, but it was starting back in September. We've been nonstop since. Yeah. So it's a lot, right? And it's a lot of misinformation. So I think in too much of this and that. So the uncertainty of it is like the recipe for disaster with PTS. So I would say, yes, absolutely. We know that the suicide rate, the number I was heard is at 28 a day now for veteran and active duty versus 22. Tom and I personally we've caught wind of, 5 or 6 guys and gals in the last few months that have committed suicide. We've had a company out in Washington. They've lost 4.
Yeah, military unit lost 4. One of them
all in the same unit.
One of them was
2 medics.
Issue your weapons. We're on the range shooting, and the guy took his gun and turned it on himself right on the range. So you've got how many people saw that affected by that?
Yeah, so it's the isolation. The worst of it is these guys that are calling and they're like, I've been in my house for 6 weeks and I haven't talked to anyone because I'm a single guy and this part of my team's deployed, the other and they're stuck. So I'm literally here by myself with my thoughts and it's dangerous. It's so dangerous. So that's why we always Tom and I are like, check on your strong friends, but really please check on your strong friends because the ones that aren't reaching out, those are the ones that terrify us. The ones that are like, hey, I've picked up the phone. We're like, we've got you. Okay. We've got you. We can do this. But the guys that aren't reaching out, that's where we get scared. And there's a lot of people hurting right now. Just a lot of they don't want to be, right? Because it's like, no, I've got it. Like you said, oh, it's fine. The election, the riots, the COVID, my parents are in a hospital, whatever. It's cool. I'm fine. I'm like, I don't think you are. Let's talk about this.
It's a tough year. It was a tough year emotionally for a lot of people who were thrust into things they weren't trained for. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was I'm glad to hear you. Definitely glad to hear you guys are back on back on track for 2021. Hopefully, if we're reading the tea leaves correctly, and if the three of us, if our predictions have been correct since last summer, and after the election, I think the new administration, I think COVID's about to become a thing of the past. I think everything is going to start opening back up, and
all better now.
that's right. It's all better now.
All better.
You know, and it's
second. I'm like, yeah, we need
Yeah,
it. We need
literally the day after inauguration, in the morning, they're like, your children will be back at 4 days a week. I was like, it only took one day.
just
one
one
day.
day. Oh, it did.
it.
One.
It's like a late Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
You know, if you guys, obviously, I know I think I was out in Texas when you guys rolled into town. When you guys were speaking over at USASOC over at SWIC, I was out in Texas shooting deer, and but absolutely, if you guys find your way back to Fort Bragg, absolutely let me know. And
February.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, definitely, definitely let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Jen, you alluded to it earlier, and I know you spoke to my wife about it. And I meant to bring this up when we were talking about books. But so your book club, tell us real quick about your book club.
I was just telling him
Adjustment. I'll be back.
That's a nice way to say that. Usually he just pees where he is all the time. Like on target, like here's the commander, and he just turns and pees. I'm like, do you guys just do that? And he's like, yeah, I get nervous before and that exercise, and I pee wherever I am. So he did not pee on the floor today. He actually went to the bathroom. But yes, the book club. I'm super excited because your wife is leading it up, and she just talked to her about it today. And Virago. So one of the things that we wanted to do was. When I met Tom, started working alongside of him, I was so confused on PTS. I didn't even know it was PTS. I thought he just was a raging asshole who had a major drinking problem. And, I'm like, you need to go to anger management classes or something, even the guys in the unit call you a dick. So that's a problem, like seriously, one of the first guys I met, he goes, yeah, he was a heavy breacher, and he said, I thought all the CSMs in the unit had to be bipolar or some sort of mental disorder because they're all fucking crazy. And he's like, and Tom was probably one of the worst of them. Like,
I heard that.
Yeah, I was talking about your Spooner story of I thought they all had to be bipolar or some sort. Actually, I don't know that he said all CSMs. He said the Mogadishu CSMs all were bipolar or
Might
scared.
have been a true story.
Something. I was like, I think it's called PTSD, but that's cool. So the book club at Virago, anyone can join, truly. When I was going through that's a long way around to say I didn't have the knowledge or the information. I didn't have the community. I felt super, super scared, alone, frightened, even suicidal myself in this place. So I don't want other women to be in that space. I want them to feel unified. We're in this together. We might be different. We might have our own stories. We might a lot of veteran and active duty wives have a lot of childhood trauma that they bring into the relationship too. They're not even seeing how that's playing. Like I would joke, my trigger is triggering his trigger, which just triggered my trigger, but it's true. Like we had to figure out how to break that negative cycle. It took a while, but these book clubs are to bring information, to bring community. So our first book is going to be a Brene Brown book, talk about vulnerability and shame. She's the queen. I love her so much. So it's actually a book that Tom resisted reading for a year. It's called Braving the Wilderness. And on a plane, he's like, I don't have shit to read. I'm like, can you read this book,
this
please?
one. I'm like,
Please read this book. And it's so good. And he's reading. And I'm like, he's got his pen out. And I'm like, you underline the entire fucking book. Like, I got to buy a new book now
it was
because
all good.
it's all the entire, how do you know what part's best? Because it's all underlined. So that's the book we're doing. Guys, gals, I don't care who you are. This book talks about why you need a tribe, what the lack of tribe is going to do to you, why it's important to be connected. And so it opened a lot of things for him, why he behaved the way he did, why the relationships he had with other guys in the unit or his, exes, why his child, why they were constructed and deconstructed that way. So it's a great book. It's funny. Laughed my ass off too. But hopefully what we're doing is getting a community together that can say, yeah, we have this experience together of loving someone who, had been through some really bad situations and is working his way back out of it. But this is what we're dealing with as spouses on the other side of it. And so it's really just community support and education awareness. And hopefully we can help some people not feel so alone and isolated in it. So, yeah.
Awesome. How can people find your book club at Virago?
So Virago is on all the social. I don't even know. Can I say that anymore? All the social platforms. I don't even know what they are. Like that's
whatever
not
you
on,
choose to be on.
It's not on the new ones yet, but it will be. But it's on Facebook, Instagram. We don't do Twitter anymore. So
well, I'm there, but I don't know what I'm.
I don't know.
I don't know what I'm doing.
We're banned from everywhere anyway. So
yeah, we get blocked. So.
We're shit. If you can find us on social media, we are there, but also allsecurefoundation.org has a Virago tab that we're building out. So there'll be all the information there as well. And everyone's welcome, men, women, active duty, family members. Really, this is an open community. Like I said, we will have a private group that is vetted for special operation partners, but this is an open community. So yeah, come join us.
Perfect. All right. So that closes us out. We're at that time. Tom, Jen, one personally, for being a recipient of your workshops and your couples retreat and your tutelage, and kind of helping me figure out that I wasn't alone and kind of how I felt and kind of what I was dealing with. I can't thank you enough. But as a as a fellow former green suiter, I know I can speak for Roger and Luke on this. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for what you guys do for folks out there. You guys are, like Roger said, a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people, are out there, saying they do great and wonderful things, but you guys are literally saving lives. And, we can't thank you enough. We will, we want to continue our relationship, not only as friends with you guys, but also, trying to support All Secure Virago and what you guys are doing. So we're here for you, whatever you need. I know we didn't, we can't contribute much. As most folks, we're definitely going to try to help as we can, but definitely appreciate what you guys are doing. And we look forward to getting you guys back on here in a couple months. Maybe we'll see how 2021's treating you. Maybe hopefully it's a little better.
Yeah.
And see what All Secure Virago have in store.
Awesome.
Yeah, it has to be better.
And thank you.
Thank you guys. I tell you what, we want awareness. We want people to know about us if they need to know about us. You know what I mean? Those that don't need to know about us, great. I mean, maybe you'll never bump anybody in the world that you can help. Maybe you'll never need help. Great. Hey, I hope that for everyone. But if not, man, awareness for a place to find help. And if it's not us, we'll help you find a place that does help. I mean, that's all we care about. I mean, we've been through hell together. We have friends that have been through hell, and we want to help them out of it. I mean, that's all we're doing it for. We're getting rich doing this, so that's what we're doing it for. I don't know what people think, but we honestly do it because it didn't take much to help me. I had to do the work anyway. It didn't take much for someone else to help me. So that's what we want to do. We want to help someone else wake up and help them do the work and feel better because it can be done.
Awesome. And with that, we want to thank Carlton Zeus once again for the intro music. You can catch him on Apple Music, and you can find him at www.carltonzeus.com. Until next time, Canteeners, we're going to bid you adieu. So keep your canteen cups filled and keep them tightly secured.